everywhere we store information is a database, right? So think about it practically, where like in your day-to-day life, where do you store information? You have your phone. How much information is in the phone? That's a database, right? That's a functional database. Your computers, you store files, you store important. If you have physical boxes, where you store your critical documents, where important documents, where you don't want anybody to have access to them, right? You maybe with the way we had back in the day, you go to the hospitals and you have a physical file, and they'll put them in shelves and racks, and that's where medical records were stored before the advent of electronic medical records, Epic and the rest of them. There were manual physical storage places for medical records. Those were that was physically maintaining data, right? That was database administration in a very manual, taking a very manual approach to database administration, right? So that's a database. Anywhere you store information is a database, right? Now, and that's the question there. Can it store information? Then it's a database, right? Now, who is a database administrator? Who is a database administrator? Now we've established what a database is, right? So I've said there, in today's data-driven world, organizations rely on databases to store, manage, and retrieve critical information. From customer records to financial transactions, databases play a pivotal role, right? So a database administrator is just basically a gatekeeper for business critical information, right? You're a gatekeeper in terms of you manage who has access to the information, what level of access they have, right? What records you can retrieve, right? You're the one responsible for how fast that information is getting to who requires it. And you do this using a set of tools or a software tool. It has to be a specific software platform, right? That we refer to as database systems, database management systems, relational database systems, whatever they call. There's different names depending on what it's about. But generally, we will just leave them as database management platforms, right? And so you're proficient at one of those software technologies, and you use your proficiency in any of those tools to help businesses manage their data, administer their data, basically, like everything I just described that they do, right? So you're proficient, right, in SQL Server. That's a tool. I'll give you a list of them in a bit. Oracle, MySQL, Maria, Postgres. You're proficient in one of those tools, and you use your proficiency to help businesses with managing their business critical data, whether it's access or granting permissions, doing backups, doing different things. So that is a database administrator, right? I want you to be able to leave today and be able to have a conversation with just about anybody and let them, tell them why you're excited about this career path that you're about to embark on. Okay, so I made a list of some database management platforms. Again, there's more than this. You see things like Microsoft Access, as basic as that is. Well, Access is not basic, but that's before we started the SQLs and the Oracles and all these other guys, these are mainstream, expensive licenses and support. But when it comes to just standard database administration, database management, Access, Excel, right? We do it with other even lesser complex tools. But these are some of the ones in the market. You're going to see people recruiting for Microsoft SQL Server DBs, Amazon RDS, right? MySQL, IBM, DB2. Well, DB2 is for IBM, MariaDB. There's a whole bunch of them. These are all database management platforms. These are all vendors, right, that have their own software that you can use for managing data. So if you are going to become a database engineer, database administrator, you will have to be proficient in one of these platforms. And it is your skill that you acquire. That's what you now take on to go become a database administrator in any organization using the skills you have with any of these tools. Now let's look at the demand and the opportunity, right? So is there really a demand for database administrators? Do businesses, are there still people being hired to do this work, right? Why is database administration a good career path? And I put the database administrators are in high demand. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor and Statistics, the field is expected to grow by 8% between 2022 and 2032, resulting in approximately 10,200 new positions every year. So there's 10,000 new jobs every year for database administrators, right? These are stats from the Department of Labor's website. You can look those up yourself, and it's expected to keep growing by 8% every year. In fact, they rank this as one of the fastest growing computer careers, here in the US, right? Again, because data is critical. Now, if you decide to expand beyond just database administration and even just do every data space, the options are even significantly more, right? So database administration, is in high demand. It's a high demand career path. It's a high income career path. It's a high value career path, right? So it's why not database administration should be the question, right? So there's a ton of opportunities, and it's one of those fields that the demand will continue to grow, because think about how dependent we are on data in the world today. That data has to be stored somewhere. Every day you go online and do any searches or just do whatever you do online, your habits, everything you do online is tracked using cookies, and all of those records are stored in a data warehouse somewhere, right? Every time you go on Amazon to shop or go on Shopify, Shopify to make an order, do some transactions, those records are updated, promptly. Inventory is updated. That we're interacting with data every day. Every day we are a data-driven, world today, and so opportunities for careers in this space is unlimited. All right, so it's why is this a good career path? This is one of the reasons. It's high demand. Now, where can we work? And the answer is everywhere, right? I've had students in the past go on to work in landscaping companies, manufacturing, healthcare, finance, go to banking, retail. I've had students go work, work for mining, at the corporate office. And so you don't have to work in an IT firm. You don't have to work in Netflix or Google or, Facebook, Meta, X. You don't have to work in those companies. Those will be great, but there is other spaces in different industries where there's the same opportunities abundance. I had Wayne Farms reach out for one of my students in the past. Wayne Farms is the one that produces all the chicken Chick-fil-A uses, or they supply the chicken for Chick-fil-A. And they were recruiting to hire a database administrator. And you're wondering, and I was wondering, what is a chicken farm doing with a database administrator? But it's data. Somebody needs to track the inventory for the chickens, right? So it's incredible. There's opportunities in every space, in every realm for us. Now, as I go on, if you have questions about anything I say, I am going to answer questions at the end. So please use the chat if you have questions at any point. Don't wait till the end to ask your questions. Throw them in the chat. I will get to your questions once I get through my presentation. All right, so there's no restrictions where we can work. It's not industry specific. If the organization uses data, which all of them do, they need somebody to manage it for them. They need us. Right. Now, in terms of income, how much do we really make? Again, going back to Department of Labor's website, the median salary for last year was $101,000. So when we say go make six figures, it is actually, it's based on the facts, the averages. And people go as high as, depending on what you negotiate, if you do the hourly rates, I've seen people go as high as $80 an hour, $75 an hour. And that's closer to $150, $160K a year. That's a higher income bracket to start. But on the average, you're getting that 101, 102, around that 101 to 110. This 100 to 110 will be the starting range. People always wonder, how much will I make starting out? That's where our target from that 100K to 110 is a realistic point to shoot for starting out, as a database administrator. All right, so that's in terms of income. Again, these numbers are, I put some screenshots from the Department of Labor's website, so you see that we're not making it up. You can check these numbers out yourself, and you can see just everything I've said so far are values are pulled from. These guys track this information on a regular basis, so you can look this up for yourself. And I have a list of some certain companies, just a few. Again, I've been training for the last 7 years now, so I've had students everywhere. But these are some of the places that we could put together quickly, where our students have been employed. AT&T, Conduent, GE Aviation, Morgan Stanley, Cigna. Morgan Stanley is always hiring. US Bank, you see Northside Hospital, hospitals, Equifax. Those damn people. They're good people in case. Don't be mad at me if Equifax is this. Masons, retail, right? Net Health, Verizon, utilities, right? Co-op Financial. Co-op is big in Atlanta. So there's All these are different places where people who have gone through, who maybe at one time sat and listened through a workshop like this, where they are working. And I'm just showing you this to present to you like a diversity of organizations, right? Different of where opportunities are. So I don't want you to restrict your thought process to where potentially you could be in. Except you have specific aspirations, targeting specific companies, that's different. But if you're just looking to make a move into a career in tech, get into database administration, then it just want to show you the possibilities that are out there. Now, what exactly do we do? Right? What exactly do database administrators do? And again, some things might not be very clear coming out, and I'll go through this quickly because a lot of things will not in the first section, might not make all that sense. And so I'm going to keep it very high level. So security is a big thing for us. Security, when we talk security, we're talking about access. Who has access to what? Right? Who has access to, what information in the database, right? That is something we are responsible for. Some people, that is their key responsibility every day, is granting access, managing access, removing access, upping and downing permissions as required, auditing the entire, database infrastructure and managing who has what level of access. Right? I worked in organizations where my first task was to audit the entire security platforms and see people who had more permissions than they needed to do their job, and then try to retrieve those permissions. So that's a big part of what we do. We don't want people having access to what they don't need to have access to. The other part of the other thing we do is we, responsible for creating and maintaining the database structure and design. Right? Design, we talk about like architecture, making sure architecture means you're taking a logical idea and you're taking just a general idea and building it into a logical structure. So you're creating a design out of an idea. So an example would be a company wants to build an app. That's an idea. Now you go in as the database engineer, database administrator, database architect, and you figure out what needs to be in place to ensure that idea works. Right? That is that's exactly that's that part of just database structure and design. Then the next is installing and updating the database software and tools. Right? So that part, just again, if you are doing Oracle or SQL or whatever tool you need to implement it, that is tantamount to building out a new database server. Right? So when you're doing a new database server, the installation, that's a key part. Some people, that's their job. If you're maybe in a contract role where you are building out new servers, you're doing installation, you're doing updates, you're implementing the tools, doing some configuration post-install. Those are some kind of day-to-day responsibilities. Remember, we're talking about part of the things we'll cover today are what are some things we do as database engineers, database administrators. Monitoring and optimizing database performance. You always have to know what's going on, or at least to figure out what happened. Right? We should be able to answer those questions every time. What happened and what's going on? Right? What happened? That means it's reactive monitoring. Going back, being able to identify, do some root cause analysis, figure out the reason why certain things happen. That is, a part of our day-to-day job. And then you want to also have monitoring in place to capture things before they even happen, right? You're using benchmarks and parameters and, just milestones to track where the behavior of your resources are, so that you can make proactive decisions to avoid the issue, right? So that's monitoring and optimizing database performance. The next, we have planning and executing database upgrades and migration. So being able to go from an old infrastructure, old hardware to new hardware, right? Plan that. How are we going to effectively move all of our databases from server A to server B, because server A is about to go to end of life, right? We have server A that is about to be retired. We've been running this server for the last 10 years, and we need to move all of our applications and databases to server B that we just purchased, right? So a DBA is going to be responsible for coming up with a plan to move all of that data from A to B seamlessly without any, outages. Well, there has to be outages, but making it seamless where there's less. You don't want to lose data. You don't want to stop business. So that is for, just planning and executing database upgrades and migrations. Next, you want to perform regular maintenance tasks like backups and indexing. right? So with maintenance is anything you're doing to keep your system going, right? So things like your indexes, doing index maintenance. Again, in class we talk about these things in depth, but indexes are how your search results return faster, like you would in a book. Backups is, again, you're making a copy of your databases and keeping them somewhere safe, so that if anything goes wrong, you have a copy that you can continue, you can restore to work with or work from. All right, so those are key tasks you want that we get to do regularly, or implement regularly, so we can ensure the environment is up. Then things like troubleshooting and resolving database issues, find the problem and fix it. That's what we're doing there. Like, something happens, troubleshooting means identify the issue and then fix it. Then we'll talk about monitoring database usage and capacity, again, so that we can plan for resources. Do I need to add more storage? Is there too much pressure on my resources, like my memory, all of those things? So that's database usage and capacity. And then we have collaborating with other IT teams and business stakeholders, right? That's a big part of our job, is collaboration, working with other teams, working with other individuals, just to overall, we're dealing with the data, but then there's this physical infrastructure, server infrastructure, there's networking, there's the application that sits on some of the database that's feeding us with the data. We have to be able to work with these different individuals and different teams, right? That is how, that's part of our day-to-day task. So this is the high level, again, helicopter view of what we do on a regular basis. Most DBAs, this is what they do, right? This is the high level overview of everybody who is in this realm or in this space is doing a subset of this collection of activities, generally speaking. All right. And again, I go into more details, just part of the responsibility, database design and architecture. Again, and architecture just means you're taking ideas and building out a blueprint, creating a logical path to attaining that idea, that implementing that solution, right? Configuring your database. So this is, again, more tasks that we do. Basically, installation and configuration, monitoring, we've talked about, improving performance, backup and recovery, managing access, and security. All of these are different day-to-day tasks that we do. Again, I kind of went over in depth. This is just slides showing details of everything I already said. We talk about compliance. This is a very good one, right? A lot of companies are, if it's in the medical field, you're HIPAA compliant. There's SOX compliance, Sarbanes-Oxley compliance. There's different levels of compliance for data that we have to adhere to. So depending on the organization and what the policies are, what regulations that they are aligned with to ensure certain standards. Our job is to ensure that those standards, those compliance standards, data governance standards are met per time. So that's a critical part of what we do. And then we talk about support and assistance. If it breaks, we are the ones who identify the issue and then resolve that issue. And I talked about collaborating with teams and stakeholders. Again, there's a lot of collaborations. A few times we have meetings, and we need to be able to communicate clearly. Technical conversations to non-technical people is a key skill, and I'll talk about some skills we need to do well as database administrators. All right. Again, if you have questions, let me know in the chats. How is everyone feeling so far? All right. Let me see. I think I already see. All right. Yeah. So keep putting your questions in the chat. I will answer all of them. Once I get through my material, I want to make sure I get through all of the material. Thank you for the questions. I like the engagement in the chat. That is incredible. All right. Let's talk about becoming a database administrator. Becoming a database administrator. What are the requirements? Now, a lot of people have different conceptions. They'll tell you, you must be a master's is good. Yes, it is. A master's in computer science is great to have. It is not required. A bachelor's in computer engineering, computer science, MIS, whatever tech degrees you want to throw out there, would they help? Yes. Are they required? No. The reason is nobody is really going to the level of detail and depth in any courses in college or even postgraduate. I did my bachelor's in all of the things I mentioned, and I was introduced to SQL, but I never got to the depth that I have gotten to now as a professional, right? So college is more foundational, and then what they cover, computer science, is broad, right? You get to know a little bit about everything and not everything about one thing. And so that's the limitation. Your degree gives you the ability to communicate to an extent, but it doesn't necessarily help you get to a certain level of proficiency within one technology. Right? How many technologies can you really learn in school? Right? What are they going to teach you in school, and which one will they leave? Are they going to teach Oracle, SQL Server, MySQL, Postgres? Which of them? Okay, so the education is great to expand your mind and teach you what's possible and how the systems might work from an architecture design perspective. But in terms of going and putting hands, on stuff and getting things done for businesses, the degree doesn't really do that much for you. And I'm talking from experience. Again, is it good to get? Yes. Is it required? No. So if you have your degree in business administration or marketing or accounting, right? We've had a lot of people from healthcare who are nurses who are looking to make a change, who have come in the recent last few years in the pandemic, post the pandemic. We've had a lot of people from the medical space, right? It doesn't matter what your bachelor's or diploma is in, right? The requirement I need you to have education-wise is your high school diploma is required. Now, the next thing you need to do is have sound understanding of at least one of the database technologies. Right? Yes, you can. Can you be a generalist DBA? I don't think so. Right? You have to be specific. You need to be proficient in one or a couple. Right? Start with one and build proficiency. Become a SQL Server DBA. Be excellent at that. Know the ins and outs of how to help businesses with their data using SQL Server or with Oracle before you venture. Now, what happens with adding more to your toolbox in terms of what you're able to do? What you're able to accomplish is you build a lot of these database tools have similarities, right? If you learn SQL Server, learning MySQL won't be as tall a task because a lot of the concepts are very similar. A lot of the language and terminologies are very close, right? So it's easier for you to add on a second and a third language after you perfect one, but you want to make sure you are sound in one of the technologies, and then you can add on. But there's no generalist DBA. You have to be a SQL Server DBA. If you look at all the job descriptions, they are very specific. Even the ones that require multiple platforms, there's still a core skill set they need you to have. So you see a SQL Server DBA, a SQL database engineer. They might not specify the technology in the name of the job description. They can say database engineer, but when you go into the job description, you will see what they are favoring in terms of the platform that they are looking for, the skill set to hire. All right, the next requirement is you need to have experience. A lot of people focus on certification, and it's good. In fact, I'm going to talk about certification for a little bit. Right, certifications have their benefits, but it doesn't serve you in an interview. It doesn't serve you in a conversation when people that are deciding your fate and whether to have a hire you or not. Certifications are great for staying up to date with the technologies, right? But it is not a way to show anybody you are good. Anybody can go read. If you stumble across the right, brain dumps and study hard enough, you will pass the certification, right? So while it is great to have, it is not necessarily an evidence of your expertise in terms of ability to do it. Again, because of how critical what we do is, it's important that we know what we're doing. And most businesses, think about the income that we are receiving, right? Imagine, put yourself in the shoes of the employer. You're going to do your due diligence to ensure that whoever you're hiring, is worth that investment. So experience is something we need to have. Now you wonder, well, I haven't done this before, so where do I get experience from? The moment you begin a program where you're learning, so like my program, and you're getting hands-on work, that is experience. You can build out your own lab, implement different things. Again, I'm going to show you different steps you can take to get started. But you can gain experience from day one, the day you begin your journey. That starts counting. I always look at DBA experience, especially when you're getting it, like we look at pilot experience, right? For pilots, it's not necessarily years of experience, it's flight hours, right? You can be 12 years a pilot, but your flight hours, and you don't have enough flight hours because you've not been flying. right? Versus somebody might have raked up those flight hours even though they haven't been as long in the industry as you. Same thing, you want to practice and live and kill it in the lab to an extent where, yes, I might not have had any on-the-job production experience. However, you have put in plenty of time, right? You've built up your flight hours. You've broken things and fixed them. You've identified how things work. So now, even though I haven't done this on the job for somebody, I have done it enough to build my efficiency and proficiency where I understand the technology inside out. That's the mindset you want to take going into any going into your job conversation, going to your job start process. And of course, people ask me this question all the time. Do I need to be really good with computers? People tell me, Nnamdi, all I do by computer is watch Netflix. I don't really know how to do anything else. That's, first of all, that's terrible. Okay, just kidding. But you have to be able to do more. Your computer is so powerful. There's so much you can do with your computer. But yeah, as long as you can navigate your computer, you can navigate your mouse, do the fundamental things, you're comfortable, you have a level of comfort in Windows, then that's a good place to be.